Hello to everyone. Nice to be back. And for today, we will be looking at Unit 3 of Module 3. But before I proceed with this unit, I would just like to have a quick review of the things that we have done in the past. So, in the last module, we have seen how to set an independent mind, and that was part of your reflection paper. And in that activity, it was very important for you to see the significance of having an independent mind. And the things that you have submitted, again, very, very wonderful. Of course, bawat isa sa atin unique, kaya iba yung pananaw natin kung paano natin aatakihin yung pagde-develop natin ng independent mind. Siyempre, depende rin yon kung paano nyo na-assess yung sarili nyo from the competencies na nakita rin natin dun sa previous section. And of course, ang pinaka-basic concept naman on how to train the independent mind is we need to obtain our foundation doon sa ating gustong ma-accomplish. So we can obtain this through trainings, we can obtain this by honing our skills, and we will also be able to learn things and apply them. Even in the process, meron nga tayong mga tinatawag na meron din tayong mga kailangang i-unlearn. For example, yung mga mali nating habits, yung mga mali nating ginagawa noon, kailangan nating i-unlearn so that hindi natin siya madadala dun sa ating planong uh, gawing negosyo. Okay, so independent mind, meaning we stand on our own, we decide on our own, we don't just rely on other people to decide for us. Okay? And then, in that reflection paper, yung unang reflection paper, you were also asked how to develop a resilient mind. So, resilient mind, paano ka babangon from a failure, kung paano ka makakabawi sa isang pagkalugi. And dito, naaalala ko yung isang kasabihan na when we fail, it is not really on how we fall, but it is on how we rise. O kung gusto nating i-restate pa yan, it is not on how hard we fall, but it is on how fast we rise from that fall. And ganun ang pagiging resilient. Dapat pag pumalpak, bawi agad, bangon agad, learn from our mistakes. So remember, yung mga tinitingnan natin dito, hindi lamang siya for entrepreneurship, hindi lang man siya para sa business. We can even apply this even in our personal lives. Diba? Kailangan natin sa bawat bagay sa ginagawa natin sa ating buhay, may resilient mind tayo. Kasi pag tayo nag-focus sa failure, pag tayo nag-focus sa kapalpakan natin, ang hirap bumawi, ang hirap bumangon. Samantalang, kung ang gagawin natin is dun sa mga pagkakamali natin, we will take that as a challenge, we have to move on, mas mabilis natin maayos kung saan tayo pumalpak o nagkamali. And then, also in that reflection paper, binanggit din doon on how you should develop a goal-oriented mindset. Goal-oriented mindset. And siguro ang gusto ko lang banggitin dito, pag tayo nag-set ng goal, as much as possible, laging long-term goal ang ating iniisip. Huwag tayong nag-iisip ng goal na panandalian lang. Sabi ko nga kanina, itong tinatalakay natin, hindi lamang ito for entrepreneurship, hindi lamang to for business. We apply this even in our daily lives. So even in your case, as students, dapat ang sineset nyong goals, long-term goals, dapat ang iniisip nyo, ano na ba ako 5 years from now? Ano na ba ako 10 years from now? And even in your reflection papers, may mga nabasa akong mga ganun. And that's very good. Setting long-term goals. So bakit kailangan long-term goals yung sineset natin? Kasi tinatansya natin kung ano yung gusto nating kalabasan ng ating kinabukasan. So hindi dapat tayo makontento na kung ano lang yung para bukas, happy na tayo dun sa gagawin nating desisyon. Dapat ang tinitingnan natin is always long-term goal. Kaya nga, kahit sa pag-aaral nyo, dapat ang iniisip nyo, kung kayo kumukuha ng medtech, 5 years from now, ano na kayang ginagawa ko? Anong hospital na ako nagwo-work? O meron na ba akong sariling laboratory na ako yung nagpapatakbo? That's an application of entrepreneurship. Kung ikaw nasa engineering, o 5 years from now, dapat naka-board exam na ako, dapat licensed engineer na ako, o ano kaya yung kung civil engineering ang kinuha kong major, meron na kaya akong pag-uumpisahan na construction firm, something like that. Hindi masama ang mangarap ng malaki. Alalahanin natin, long-term goal. Para at least meron nagpupush sa atin na nagmo-motivate sa atin to work harder with what we have right now. Okay? And yun yung mga nakita natin for the first part of your reflection paper. And then, yung second part ng reflection paper, meron article din na pinabasa, di ba? And I would just like to mention one section na binanggit dun sa article. And if you will recall, there was a section there na kinompare yung fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And as an entrepreneur, laging nababanggit in the past na dapat meron tayong growth mindset. However, sabi ko nga kanina, hindi lamang ito tungkol sa entrepreneurship. Even in our life, dapat ang mindset natin must always be under the growth mindset. We must always desire growth in our lives. To mature in the things that we do, to mature in the decisions that we are making. And if you will go back to the comparison ng fixed mindset at saka ng growth mindset, ano yung mga binanggit doon? Halimbawa, sabi niya, pagdating sa challenges, pag ikaw may fixed mindset, you try to avoid the challenges. Samantalang kung may growth mindset ka, you embrace it. And that's how life must be. When there are challenges, we don't run away from the challenges. We embrace the challenges, we go head on with the challenges. Bakit? Kasi itong challenges na to, ito yung mag-i-inspire sa atin to become stronger. Ito yung mga bagay na magfo-force sa atin na magkaroon ng mindset na gusto nating mag-succeed. Huwag nating tatakbuhan yung mga challenges. Also, binanggit din yung obstacles. Pag meron kang fixed mindset, you easily give up. But if you have a growth mindset, you persist, and even in setbacks, you still face those setbacks. And nabanggit ko nga kanina, di ba? Dapat kung meron tayong resilient mind, it is not how hard we fall, but it is how fast we rise from that fall. And then third thing na binanggit doon is yung effort. Pag fixed mindset ka, you see effort as fruitless. O parang yung effort mo, parang useless. Samantalang kung meron kang growth mindset, you see effort as the path of mastery. And that's very practical, even in your life as a student. Pag fixed mindset ka, parang yung effort mo, feeling mo, wala namang kwenta, parang wala namang pinupuntahan yung ginagawa ko. Pero, kung nasa growth mindset ka, kasi nga ang naset mo is a long-term goal for your life, you now see this effort as a path to mastery. So, nagagamit mo ito to master things, nagagamit mo ito para mas maging mahusay ka pa, para mas mahasa pa yung talents mo o yung skills mo on a particular subject or in a particular area. Criticisms, binanggit din doon. If you have a fixed mindset, you ignore useful negative feedback. Samantalang, pag meron kang growth mindset, you learn from criticisms. Pag meron kang growth mindset, ang bawat criticism na naririnig mo, you take it as a positive criticism or constructive criticism. A criticism that will help you build yourself better. Okay? Hindi yung tipong may marinig ka lang na negative feedback, suko ka kagad. Rather, pag ikaw nasa growth mindset, nakarinig ka ng negative feedback about you, about your work, about your product, about your output, ang gagawin mo dapat, you retreat. Pag-isipan mo, you assess yourself. May katotohanan ba yung sinasabi niya? May katotohanan ba yung feedback niya? Ngayon, kung may katotohanan yung feedback niya, how do I now improve yung negative feedback na binigay? Saan ako nagkulang? Saan ako nagkamali? Pero kung makita mo naman na maayos naman lahat ng ginawa mo, and yet nag-feedback sila ng ganon, then just don't mind kung ano man yung binigay na feedback na yun. Move on. Diba? Parang love life lang yan. You have to continue with your life. You have to move on. And then, success of others. Binanggit din doon. Pag meron kang fixed mindset, ang success ng iba, you feel threatened. Samantalang, pag meron kang growth mindset, you find lessons and inspirations in the success of others. And that's a very normal thing actually para sa ating mga makasalanan. Pag yung ibang tao nagsasucceed, kuminsan nararamdaman natin may inggit tayo. Pero ito dapat maging guideline natin. Isa lang ibig sabihin nun, pag inggit ang nararamdaman mo for the success of others, then you have a fixed mindset. But if you are under the growth mindset at nakita mo nag-succeed ang ibang tao, you will now look at his life and make his life as an inspiration. Make his success be an example kung saan ka pwedeng makapulot ng mga lessons na magagamit mo rin sa buhay mo. Meron nga yung tinatawag nila, kahit sa education o kaya sa business, you look at the best practices of other people. Because these best practices can also lead you to success. Okay? And yun lang yung gusto kong tingnan dun sa article na yun. Alam ko marami pa kayong napulot, alam ko marami pa kayong na-share dun sa reflection paper number 2 nyo. But I think yung part na yun yung may meat para sa akin dun nung tinitingnan ko yung article na yun. Okay? So yun yung review natin for Module 3, Unit 2. And just to share also, kanina nung nagbabasa nga ako nung mga reflection papers nyo, merong isa sa inyo na nag-comment. Sabi niya gano'n, natutuwa. At sabi niya, nagpapasalamat siya sa akin. And ang comment niya nga, Rod, ang dami niya daw natututunan dito sa Trep. And ang dami niya daw napupulot ng mga bagay-bagay dito sa Trep na to. And ang sabi niya pa doon, she will now be starting her own business. So imagine, nasa kalagitnaan pa lang tayo ng Trep 1, nagkaroon na ng effect sa isang kaklase nyo yung ating mga lessons. So I am not saying na bibitawan nyo na yung pag-aaral nyo and get into business. What I am just saying here is, kung meron tayong matututunan along the way, meron tayong pwedeng i-apply to improve our life, to improve our career, then go ahead, grab it. But remember, ang ginagawa natin dito is, this is our training ground. So, di ba nabanggit ko nung umpisa nga natin na itong Trep, pwede kasi later on in the future after you graduate, pwedeng yung pagiging negosyante maging fallback ninyo. Whether maging licensed medtech kayo, pwede pa rin kayo magtayo ng sarili nyong negosyo, sarili nyong clinic, sarili nyong testing center. Di ba? And kung engineer kayo, pwede rin kayo magtayo ng sarili nyong firm. And then, pag nagtayo ka rin kayo ng sariling firm, nandun pa rin eh. Business pa rin yan. Business-oriented pa rin yan. So still, you need the basic concepts. So remember, yung isang nabanggit natin kanina, having an independent mind means you decide on your own. Pero, hindi mo magagawang mag-decide on your own kung hindi ka naman equipped. So what we are doing right now is equipping. So remember also, kaya kayo nag-aaral, kaya napakahaba ng inyong pag-aaral, di ba? 6 years sa elementary, hindi na natin sinama yung preschool, tapos sa high school, naging 6 years pa, tapos ang college, another 5 years, 4 years yung iba. So, ang haba ng panahon na mag-aral. So, bakit napakahaba? Kasi kailangan natin ng ganong kahabang panahon to equip us. To equip us so that pag pumunta na tayo sa field ng expertise natin, we are ready. We are ready for battle. Meron tayong daladalang bala. Okay? So, for today, we now look at Module 3, Unit 3. And we have the title, The Entrepreneurial Organization. Or we will use the abbreviation EO. Hindi optical, it's Entrepreneur Organization. So according to this, the personal competencies, which we have seen in Unit 1, and mindset, which we have seen in Unit 2, are descriptions of the entrepreneurial individuals. Topic in Unit 3 covers now the dimensions of an entrepreneurial firm. So yung sa Unit 1 and Unit 2, binibase from individuals. Pagdating sa Unit 3, we are now looking at the entire entrepreneurial firm. So when individuals have possessed the competencies and mindset of an entrepreneur, they become drivers for organizations to be entrepreneurial. So pwede silang maging leaders dun sa company or sa grupo na masasamahan nila. And we have again our learning outcomes. The first one is understand the dimensions of EO or entrepreneurial orientation. And 2, to distinguish an entrepreneurial organization. And actually, for you to be forced to come up with learning outcome number 2, that will be your homework later on. I'm going ahead of myself. So we have the 2 learning outcomes, and then we have now the definition. Entrepreneurial orientation. So, an entrepreneurial orientation involves 1, strategy making. Strategy making, practices used to identify and launch new venture. And pag gumagawa tayo ng strategy, we don't just look at the practices used. I have already mentioned this earlier. We look at the best practices. Because from the best practices, we will learn kung alin yung mga components na nagko-contribute sa success. In this case, ng isang negosyo. Ano ba ang maganda nilang ginagawa na pwede rin nating i-apply sa atin para pag, sabi nga rito, pwede tayong mag-identify at pwede tayong mag-launch ng bagong ventures. Bagong ventures, kaya ngayon sa second, a unique frame of mind. Remember, since Module 1, lagi nating sinasabi, pagdating sa entrepreneurship, laging merong something unique. Laging meron something innovative in what we will be introducing. And then number 3, a perspective toward entrepreneurship. Okay? And that's the main goal of this subject. We would always like to look at a perspective toward entrepreneurship. And all this will now be reflected in a firm's ongoing processes. So pag sinabing firm's ongoing processes, so ano na ba yung pangkasalukuyang status ng isang kumpanya. So i-assess yan. Ano ang meron sa atin ngayon? Ano yung ginagawa natin ngayon? Ano pa yung pwede nating improve? Ano pa yung kulang? Saan pa tayo pwede mag-venture? Ano pa yung pwede nating introduce that will make us different from the others? And this is also reflected in corporate culture. Remember, Unit 1, competencies, individual yon. Unit 2, mindset, individual pa rin. So pag pinagsama-sama natin yung individuals na yan, magkakaroon na tayo ng iba't ibang tao within the company. Pero normally, sa isang kumpanya, meron tayong tinatawag na corporate culture. So meron tayong mga common practices, meron tayong mga common policies na sinusunod. And our entrepreneurial orientation permeates decision making styles and practices of the firm's members. So makikita natin yan. Makikita natin yan from the decisions na ginagawa ng mga bawat member ng ating kumpanya. So that's your EO. Furthermore, under entrepreneurial orientation, we have 4 dimensions na makikita. The following dimensions are autonomy, innovativeness, proactiveness, 5 pala, sorry, competitive, aggressiveness, and risk-taking. We have the definitions given there. So, autonomy from the term itself, independent action. Di ba? Pag sinabing autonomous, kumikilos independently. So, independent action by an individual or team aimed at bringing forth a business concept or vision and carrying it through its completion. Anyway, papadala ko uli yung notes nito sa inyo, yung complete notes. Okay? And sabi dun sa notes ninyo, pagbabasahin nyo to later on, autonomy uses skunk works, to foster entrepreneurial thinking. So pag sinabing skunk works, we are thinking outside the regular organizational structure to develop something new. So remember in the previous line, sabi nga natin, meron tayong corporate culture. Merong common practice ang isang kumpanya. Pero pag in-apply natin ang autonomy, we now try to think outside the box. We now try to work outside the regular organizational structure to develop something new. However, there is a negative effect of this. And ano yung pwedeng na maging downside nito? Problems can include duplication of effort, and when duplication of effort will now come in, there will also be wasting of resources. Kasi nga, we are now doing things outside the regular organizational structure. So, pwedeng nauulit yung ginagawa ng iba, so nasasayang yung resources. The second dimension is innovativeness. Innovativeness, and this now refers to a firm's effort to find new opportunities, novel solutions, and can be promoted by, we have fostering creativity and experimentation. It can also be done by investing in new technology and research and development and continuous improvement. So, syempre, kung gusto nating maging innovative, kailangan nating mag-invest in new technology. Remember, since Module 1, nakita na natin yan. Gusto natin mag-introduce something new. So, kung gusto natin magkaroon ng bago dun sa ating negosyo, then we must be willing to use technology, use machineries to improve our current situation. And kung kulang pa yon, paano mo malalaman kung ano yung mga machineries na pwede mong gamitin? Then, dyan papasok yung pagre-research. Kailangan mong pag-aralan ano ba ang kakailanganin ng aming kumpanya just to improve our performance. And again, meron uli siyang downside. Ano yung downside niya? Pwedeng Pag yung resources na ginamit natin o kaya yung trinay nating bago hindi nag-work, nagsayang tayo ng resources, di ba? O kaya pwede ring kokopyahin tayo ng mga competitors natin. And then, sa pagkopya pa nila, pwedeng mas lumago sila o mas kumita pa sila. And then, another problem is, yun nga, nag-invest ka ng malaki, pwedeng yung investment mo, hindi mag-pay off. Okay? Then third, we have proactiveness. So pag sinabing proactive, a forward-looking perspective characteristic of a marketplace leader that has the foresight to seize opportunities in anticipation of future demand. So yun yung keywords doon. Foresight, to seize opportunities in anticipation. So foresight in anticipation of future demand. Okay? So pag sinabing proactive, advance ka mag-isip. So hindi mo nahihintayin na dumating pa yung uh, opportunity before you grab it. So yan, pag proactive ka, bago pa lang dumating yung opportunity, nakalatag na lahat yan. So ganun din sa problema. Before the problem comes in, meron ka ng solusyon. And yan ang kailangan natin din matutunan sa buhay natin, that we are proactive. Kasi sa totoo lang, ang marami sa atin reactive. So anong difference na proactive and reactive? Yung nga, proactive, before a problem comes, we are already ready for the solution. Pag sinabi namang reactive, saka ka palang gagawa ng solusyon pag nandyan na yung problema. And even in our government is very guilty of being reactive. Saka na lang gumagawa ng batas, saka na lang gumagawa ng policies pag nandyan na yung problema. Samantalang pag proactive ka, pinag-aaralan mo na lahat ng angles eh. Preclude mo na yung mga possible consequences pag ito yung ginawa mong action. Fourth, we have competitive aggressiveness. So, an intense effort to outperform industry rivals. Competitive aggressiveness. Remember, sabi nga natin dun sa Unit 1 pa lang, sa Module 1, ang negosyo, laging competition yan. Pwedeng magkakapareho kayo ng ginagawang negosyo. That's why we have emphasized that gusto lagi natin magkaroon ng something new. And that's part of being aggressive. We want always to be something, we must be a notch higher with our competitors. Okay? Ano yung mga pwedeng strategy dyan? Pwedeng magbaba ka ng presyo. Di ba? So, ang magbe-benefit din dyan is yung mga consumers. Kung marami yung nagko-compete, meron magbabagsak niya ng presyo. And that will be one strategy that you can use. Dito nga sa Baguio, meron yung, lalo na ngayon, alam natin na because of the crisis situation, isang naging mode of transportation is bisikleta, di ba? Eh dito sa Baguio, very limited ang bike shops. I remember before, nung wala pa yung shop na pinapatakbo nung kakilala ko, actually, halos lahat naman ng bike shops dito, kakilala ko yung may-ari. Pero, itong isang bike shop na to, na isa sa pinakahuling na itayo dito sa Baguio, nung hindi pa siya nag-exist, ang tataas ng presyo sa ibang bike shops. So ngayon, nung pumasok itong bagong competitor na ito, ang ginawa niya, konti lang pinapatong niya. And because of that, nakuha niya ang maraming kliyente ng Baguio. At ginawa niya pang strategy rito para maging competitive siya. Instead of bringing in the high-end brands, kinuha niya yung mga brands na pangmasa. And pumatok eh. Pumatok. Kaya, yun yung pagiging uh, nagkakaroon ng mindset for the business. Di ba? Hindi siya nadiktahan ng iba. Naging wise yung decision niya. Hindi siya nagpasok ng high-end brands. Hindi siya nagpasok ng masyadong mamahaling components. Instead, kinuha niya yung kakayanin ng tao ng Baguio. And true enough, nag-succeed. And hanggang ngayon, isa siya sa pinakamalakas na bike shop dito sa Baguio. Okay? But, meron ding downside uli, ang competitive aggressiveness. Ano yung downside niya? Being overly aggressive and damaging a firm's reputation. Pwedeng ganun. Parang yung kinikwento ko nga sa inyo na yung tungkol sa bike shop na to. Ngayon, itong bike shop na to, kuminsan marami kang maririnig from iba't ibang tao na yung reputation, parang sinisiraan na siya kasi nga dahil sa strategy niya. Pero pag titingnan nyo, if you know the owner, if you know the manager of the business, okay naman yung pagpapatakbo niya. Okay naman yung uh, presyo niya. Okay naman yung mga produkto niya. So, siguro nga, kaya lang naging ganun yung dating sa ibang kakompetensya niya is naging over-aggressive siya. Okay? And then, another downside is trying to decimate rather than just defeat the competition. So, competition. So, pag sinabing decimate, you now destroy a large part of your company just to defeat competition. And the last dimension is risk taking. Again, from module 1 pa lang, lagi na natin naririnig, pag entrepreneurship, we enter taking risks. So, making decisions and taking action without certain knowledge of probable outcomes. So, some undertakings may also involve making substantial resource commitments in the process of venturing forward. Okay? And, alin na makakatulong sa risk-taking? It was mentioned also earlier na pwede tayong gumawa ng research and development. So, para maiwasan ang risk-taking, talagang pag-aaralan mo lahat ng butas, lahat ng possibilities, lahat ng areas para hindi ka mag-e-end sa pagkatalo. Kaya nga, dapat talaga yung pag-set ng goal, long term. So, pinag-aaralan mo. Nabanggit na rin ito noon na pag nag-venture ka sa isang negosyo, hindi mo lang tinitingnan yung uso. Dapat tinitingnan mo rin yung feasibility ng iyong produkto. Kaya kailangan ng research and development. Okay? And another way to avoid failure in taking risk is using techniques that have worked in other domains. Best practices. Best practices. Marami tayong pwedeng mapulot from best practices ng ibang kumpanya. But there are again downsides. And what are those? Pwedeng yun. Lack of forethought, lack of research, lack of planning, and failure to evaluate uncertainty. Okay? Pero pwede ngang maiwasan yan. Kaya dapat sa planning stage, hindi ka nagmamadali. Sa planning stage, talaga dapat binubusisi mo lahat ng areas. Because sa pagbubusisi mo sa lahat ng areas, it will help you stabilize kung ano ang foundation na kailangan ng negosyo mo. At least, pag nag-launch ka, pag nag-venture ka na, hindi ka na magugulat sa mga possible problems na dadating. Bakit? Kasi proactive ka, hindi ka reactive. And here now is the activity for this. So I will be posting this again in your Google Classroom. I know you don't like this part, but don't worry. Itong mga sections na ito, dito naman kayo nahahasa, dito kayo na-train, dito nyo na-assess yung sarili nyo, dito kayo mas natututo. 'Di ba? Dito nyo kasi na ngayon na i-apply yung inyong pagiging entrepreneurial mind. 'Di ba? Yung pagkakaroon ng entrepreneurial mind. And dalawa lang naman yung gagawin. One, identify an existing organization related to your field of discipline. So, halimbawa, nasa engineering kayo, mag-isip kayo, ano ba ang existing organization in your area? So, if you are here in Baguio, ano bang mga existing organization dito sa Baguio? Kung medtech kayo, mag-isip kayo, mag-research kayo, ano ba ang mga existing organizations dito? And then, from that existing organization, what will you do? Discuss. Discuss how the dimensions of EO, yung limang dimensions na nakita natin kanina, yung autonomy, innovativeness, proactiveness, competitive aggressiveness, risk-taking. Yung lima. How the dimensions of EO are employed in that firm. So, ganun lang yung gagawin nyo. So, basically, parang ang makikita ko dapat dyan, you have your existing organization, and then from the existing organization, you will have five items below it, and then you will explain how do you see autonomy being applied in this particular organization. How is innovativeness seen in this organization, and so on. Okay, so that will be uh, the activity for this unit, and actually this is already the end of module 3. So it's just short. So I guess I can set the deadline of this maybe by Wednesday, and then Wednesday I can already send the next module, module 4. So for now, thank you for listening. Again, stay safe, stay home. God bless you all. And you know guys, how I wish talaga makapagkita tayo face to face, because I know marami tayong pwedeng maging discussion sa klase. And I know those discussions will be healthy discussions. I know you have plenty of ideas in your mind. I know you have plenty of suggestions in your mind. But since our situation is like this, pagtsagaan muna natin ang ating virtual classes and just do the work na ina-assign sa inyo. Remember, one of our goals in this subject is for you to develop an entrepreneurial mind. Okay? Para later on, ang long-term goal natin sa subject na to is later on, 5 years, 6 years from now, you can have a possible fallback of venturing into a business. So again, God bless you. Have a blessed week ahead